Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Steve Rasner to the Lionhearted Podcast. And normally I start out my podcast with a couple phrases about where courage meets purpose and every conversation is an opportunity to ignite the lion within us. And I do mean that. But I'm not going with all that tonight. I'm going to go different, kind of back to my kitchen days. Remember those days when I'd be podcasting in the dark hole in the kitchen? Well, I'm doing that because I want you to know the most important thing for me to convey to you every week is to keep it real and to be real. It's just the truth. And you need to know where I'm at right now. I'm in my private office in my dental practice because I still practice full time. I feel like I feel that's how I can be most useful to you because I'm on the cusp of things that happen to you and me every day, every week. Like, I'm constantly at the last second for this podcast. It's supposed to run at 5 o'clock, and I'm calling up my guests and saying, hey, can I move it to 5:10? Because I live in the real world. The real world. We're not psychiatrists, right? I don't get to look at my watch and say, well, Mrs. Smith, it's 4:55. We'll have to pick this up next time. No, I got, you know what I have? I'm told I have a crown re-cementation, right? How real is this? I'm told I have to re-cement a crown, like 10 of 5. But my front desk team, they're beautiful, but not always. And they drop the ball, and they don't tell me it's a 6-unit provisional bridge. That's a little longer on a patient, by the way. Join me on October 18th and 19th for 2+ days of inspiration and real business training. This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited. Register now. That if I look at him wrong, he's sensitive on his teeth. So I gotta squeeze that in. I gotta, whatever it is, it's real. And that kind of goes with the theme of tonight of my very special guest. And this guy is a very special guest. I've interviewed a lot of cool people with you guys in the last several months, and I'm proud of all of them. But this guy has a piece of my heart. I've known him for a while now, and he's just somebody that lightens up a room. Everybody tells him that. And I wanted him to be a guest tonight and share the things that he has gone into in our profession. I think you'd be interested in. And he is no other than Elijah Desmond. Elijah, welcome, my man.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Excited to be here. And I'm going to tell you the content you've been putting out for the entire dental world to see is extremely amazing and valuable. I get excited every single time I see one of those videos. So happy to be on one.
Well, I'm glad. I wish I could take credit for it, but it's my videographer, Tony Rivera, who everybody wants to hire, but I lie to you and tell you that I give you his wrong email and stuff. So hopefully you'll just get tired of asking me. And I think that has worked so well. Sorry, Tony, but we'll talk about a collaboration of blowing you up big time. Bigger than I don't want him to be big. I want him to be my guy. But yeah, that's what's happening there. And it's funny. You didn't know me back in 2018-19 when I did these little podcasts out of my kitchen. And I didn't know if I was going to do them for, 6 months, a year. And now it's 6 years later. And Elijah, I did them every week, right? And I would come on and just, the thing I just talked about people, they dump on my schedule on late in the afternoon. And it's something you got to be patient if you're the doctor. And really, because being too forceful with your staff doesn't work. You got to suck it up, put a smile on your face and say something like, so listen, guys, this is why this is really important to me to have you look at my schedule after 3 o'clock. Number one, I'm usually fading a little bit because I've been at it since 8. So I need you to put more thought. Anyway, enough with that. Elijah, we go back a little ways. Tell my audience, because I don't know, everybody, probably a lot more people know you than they know me. I'm not sure. But tell them how you're quick. Give me a 2-minute journey, 5-minute journey of Elijah Desmond from the Ohio State, which I know you went, to now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. I'll tell you the quick journey. First off, I did not know that I would be where I'm at today, so it wasn't all planned. It was trial and error. Grew up in Ohio, big farm. I was raised doing like really, really hard work, labor with my hands.
I met your daddy. I know.
Yep. And I knew what I didn't want to do, and it was that. Shoveling, I don't know if I can curse on here, but I'm going to say it. You can cut it out. Shoveling pig shit and baling hay and farm work, right? And that was what I was used to growing up, and it really did help me to shape me to be who I am today. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've had over 20 businesses, but I went to school actually to be a dental hygienist. And I say that with a smile on my face because that was the goal. But I knew it took money to make money. Even though I graduated from Ohio State and moved to Hawaii, $40 an hour didn't buy you much. However, it will help you to get to 80 to 100.
Why'd you move? Wait, but back up a little bit, brother.
Yeah.
I just graduated Ohio and I went to Hawaii. How'd that happen?
Because I wanted the heck out of Ohio. That's what. It was my two choices were Switzerland, so I could travel Europe, right, and or Hawaii. And Switzerland lost out because I found out after I had committed to going that I had to have a year of clinical experience before moving. So Hawaii it was, and I went to Hawaii and I found out really quick I was not hireable. Very, very high producing guy hygienist. My production daily would be $2,500 to $4,000 a day, not including the Invisalign that I pushed out, which was, a case to 4 a day. And I found out.
But you said you were not very hireable. Is that what you said?
I did, because I don't like rules, to be honest.
Oh, so now you gotta. Okay, I get it.
When I said I wasn't hireable, like I was an entrepreneur at heart. I was not.
Okay.
I was not built to be an employee, and
Got it.
And I needed to make my own rules, and I needed to determine my own destiny. If I go out
Sure.
and I make, in the office $3,500 or $4,000, I want more than $400.
Yeah.
Right, kind of thing. Anyways, I knew it wasn't for me to stay practicing clinically. I went into consulting. I stopped that 2017. I graduated in 2009. Started a business doing dental consulting. I did staffing, created staffing agencies, sold that. I mean, I'm up to just over 20 businesses, and I'm now, I'll have 7 of them that I have exited, have sold successfully, and about 7 of them that I've failed on successfully.
Yeah.
And the businesses that I've had.
Well, stop right there for a minute.
Yeah.
Tell my audience, because I, thanks to guys like you, my audience is growing pretty nicely. You said you failed on 7 of them. What's your position on failure? Like,
Yep.
I know what mine is.
Yeah.
So you fail at some. What's your commentary on that?
I think the most important thing for me with failure is I'm not afraid. I am not afraid to fail. And I gather up all the things that I learned during the failure, and I put them all together to create a success story. And a lot of people are afraid to fail and they'll only make it to a certain point because they're afraid of that failure. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to line up, and if it doesn't, they don't even do it. I'll jump out of the plane at 40,000 feet and figure out how to build a parachute on the way down. So the most important piece is that I'm not afraid of failure at all. I failed a lot, and I also feel like if you fail enough, you can teach other people how not to fail. Right?
Sure.
Do I still fail now at 37 years old? Absolutely. But do I fail as much? Nope, I don't. I do not fail as much. And it's mostly because I'm surrounding myself always around people that have made failures, and they're vulnerable enough to tell me about them. So I don't have to hit the same pothole or fall out the same cliff that they did. So my failures are less than they used to be, but they're also bigger when they happen. So they don't happen as frequent, but there's more at risk. Now,
So for those of you that don't know, I didn't really go into it, of course. Elijah was part of his businesses in the past, and I don't know the details right now or not, are Smiles at Sea, or the Dental Festival, where he gathers. They're big deals. I mean, a lot of dentists attend these yearly, and so he is. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just because there's other things I want to ask you. Like, we can dial back to it. I don't know if now feels like the time to do it, but I happen to know that you are a big believer in being coached. And you have a lot of coaches in your life, and I think that's a foreign topic to a lot of dentists. It's not to you,
right?
Because you know other dentists that are in your groups. Can you comment on that and what's that brought to you and the table and everything?
Yep, absolutely. So, every year I would say, I'm investing in myself 6 figures, furthering my entrepreneur career. And a big piece of that is it's either being coached by a business coach or being part of groups and masterminds, paying to go into events, etc. But Tiger Woods has a coach. Michael Jordan has a coach. Shania Twain, she's got a coach. And everybody's got a coach. You should have. But I understand that there are some that do not have a coach. And my personal belief on coaches is that everybody that coaches other people, they should have a coach. If they don't have a coach, I don't know if I'd work with them, to be honest.
Really?
They should always be trying to improve themselves. I'm a lifetime student, but it's got me really far. I feel today that I'm about 253 years wise. And I have lived 6 lifetimes already. I've been around the world enough for 6 lifetimes. I have had enough experience for 6 lifetimes. And I say that because I am constantly being coached. My current business coach, his name's Dr. Eric Roman. And when I started with him, I had 14 different LLCs. And he actually didn't coach me on growing those businesses directly. He coached me on getting rid of as much as possible, selling and focusing on a couple things instead of so many things. And it's really helped me a lot. And I've been with the same coach for 2.5 years. But I've also been a part of very high-level masterminds. Entrepreneur organization is one of them. When you're surrounded around people that are making way more than you and more successful than you, you have no choice to go besides up. I stopped my business coaching other people, businesses in the dental space, stopped consulting. I don't consult. I haven't did it since 2017. I stopped that. And I started, I said, you know what, I'm only going to speak. I was already speaking all over it. I said, I'm only going to speak from here on out because coaching didn't bring me a bunch of joy. And the biggest reason for that is that when you're coaching a dental practice specifically, there's always a negative Nelly. And I can't stand negative energy. And I know the people that are listening are probably thinking yeah, I actually have this freaking grouchy office manager, right? Or this front office lady that I can't get rid of because I don't even know where to get the people to replace them. But man, she is a grump. Those people drain me, and I just don't deal with them. I don't deal with negative energy. I surround myself around positive energy. So if I could go to the stage and ultimately give all the goods, I can, leave after that, and I don't have to worry about the coaching. So I stopped coaching dental practices a while ago, and now it's just, it's entrepreneurs.
And then you got into, you were a keynote speaker, right? Is that what you got into next, right?
Yes. Well, I was keynoting. Well, first in 2015, I spoke for Invisalign. 2014, about 50 cities for Invisalign. 2015, Straumann recruited me. So then I started speaking for Straumann in about 50 cities. And after I was speaking for Straumann, I went independent in 2016. And yes, okay, absolutely, I went and I did so many keynotes all over the world, really, not just here in the U.S. And I stopped speaking. My last time, my last contract was in 2020. I stopped taking my contracts in 19 because I was elevating all of the speakers of the world through my event, Dentistry's Got Talent. I shouldn't say of the world, but we had, in one event, we had a international DGT, and we had like 14 different countries represented, which was pretty cool. But we're basically, in Dentistry's Got Talent, I would bring all of the top speakers to speak in a speaking competition with all these meeting planners that came in to hire and to recruit them. And I felt like bad speaking because I felt like I was taking other people's opportunity away as a keynote speaker. So I stopped speaking in dentistry, and then I converted and switched over to DJing these big dental conferences.
So when you DJ'd, what are some of the events that you DJ'd?
Oh, man. All over. I mean, I've DJ'd an event called Safari and Smiles in Egypt, down the Nile River. You know, I've DJ'd Groove Cruise to Cabo St. Lucas. DJ'd Anissa Holmes delivering Wow in Jamaica.
Go ahead.
I just did Henry Schein's Thrive Live event, sold out in Las Vegas at Dre's.
So when you did Henry Schein's live event DJ event, where was that held at?
I was held in Las Vegas at Dre's nightclub.
Was he there?
Dr. Dre was not there. But like that was fun. I DJ'd Heartland's event 3 years in a row for their top provider event in Cancun.
Yeah.
Aspen's event. I mean, literally so many different conferences in places all over the country. The American Dental Hygienist 100th annual event at the Tao nightclub, sold out in Las Vegas. I mean, literally these are thousands of people.
Yeah.
And I even went on tour as a DJ. I got a 46-foot tour bus. I was, grew up in the era of Real World and Road Rules. And I'm like, this could be real life. And so I went on tour. I go.
All right. So let me bring this home. You graduate Ohio State. You're a hygienist. You go to Hawaii. You're very entrepreneurial early on. You can feel all of that. Come back in. You're coaching other offices, probably on how to treatment. On Invisalign and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, and how to bring in more cases, go from 1 case every other month to 10 cases a month, and then hygiene production, happiness in the team, yeah, all that good stuff.
Happiness in the team. Important situation. Important concept, I mean. And then you got into speaking, and you got into DJing, and where are you now?
Now because as you see, I'm in the world of events, right? And we kind of skipped over Smiles at Sea, but putting hundreds.
You could talk about that.
Putting hundreds of people on cruise ships, and then putting all the industry influencers at an event called the Dental Festival. So I've been heavily involved in the event space and the influencer space in dentistry, and that has really led me to my biggest business endeavor, which I have today, which is called Dental Pitch Brokerage. And
so Dental Pitch Brokerage, what's that about?
Yep. So most people are familiar with a brokerage firm. Some people use brokers and some people don't use brokers. What's a broker? If you're looking to sell your dental practice, some people will go straight to a DSO or a private buyer, and they'll ultimately try to get the most they can from their practice. What a broker or a brokerage firm specifically does, we're a sell side broker, but we specifically will take your practice, find out what your collections are, narrow it down to what is your EBITDA, and from there, what is the valuation of your practice? See how much it's worth. So let's just say if you had a practice that was $2 million in EBITDA, the person that you're going to buy it to, if you went to them yourself, they may try to say, well, actually, your EBITDA is 1.7 million. It's not 2 million, or it's 1.3. So, and you only go to that one person. If you work with a broker's firm, we basically take your deal and we shop it to, like, we have 55 buyers. So we shop it to the buyers and we defend your EBITDA at that 2 million mark, and then we put it in kind of like a bidding situation where you're getting the most ideal exit terms. I mean, that's what a typical brokerage firm does. We don't do typical at all, but that is what a broker does, just so the people that are like, what does a broker do? Well, that's what we do.
You mean you're not typical because you shop it out to 55 purchasers.
Right. We have an insane network of buyers, number one. But the way that we do it, as far as hosting an event, making it like really fun, walk-on music, clapping, like that's not something that you see. It's in a typical situation. It's a fun experience, and it's not like anybody else, which is why we're getting so much like slack right now. Like in the
What do you? Wait. You can't just say walk-on music to me and not talk about that. Well, who has a walk-on music?
So at the conference that we're at,
It's a conference, okay.
okay, it's a private room, so nobody knows except for the buyers. In front of you, go ahead.
So if I'm, let's say, I mean, my audience pretty much knows that I did already affiliate 2 years ago, and I've told you the ups and downs of mine. But to be honest with you, in fairness to this podcast, I just want to divert for 1 second and let them know. I don't know if you know the story. I wasn't even looking to sell. It was 2022, and I would get those solicitations in my emails like a lot of you get. I'll never forget it. I don't even know why I really went with responded to one email that I got. I just did. It was the right time of the day, right time of the year. I was in Florida. I was off from work for a weekend, and I called the guy. Now, I had gotten hundreds of these, and I met the guy because he happened to be in Florida. I didn't know he was in Florida. And he said, I'll never forget this. He goes, you want to meet? I said, yeah. This is a true story. I never told this story. So remember, up to that minute that I responded to that email, I was very anti-sell to the corporation. And to some extent, I still have some of those beliefs for reasons I don't know if we have time on this podcast. But it caught me at the right moment. I emailed this guy back. We're in Florida. I make plans. Now, Florida's a big state. He was 20 minutes from me. Okay.
Wow.
So we meet for breakfast. The guy pulls up in a sports Bentley, right? And this guy had a rap. My point is, and we met for breakfast for like 3 hours. He had my attention. Because one of the things that's difficult, that is true, that if you have a very successful practice in dentistry, which I did, and I was peaking. I was peaking in 2021, 22. I mean, I went up in productivity and net profit 29 years in a row. Let's think about that for a minute. Okay? I didn't have one off year in 29 consecutive years. And so I was feeling like a lion, hence the title of my podcast. And so I didn't have any reason to want to sell. And this guy gets in front of me, and somehow, although he turned out to be a little bit BS, he made me realize how profitable it could be if that's the direction I wanted to go. And and I'm not 58 at the time. I was 67. And hi, I'm Dr. Steve Rasner. Join me on October 18th and 19th at the historic, elegant Rittenhouse Hotel in Center City, Philadelphia, for 2+ days of inspiration, motivation, and real business training. Lionhearted Live is the ultimate business course for dentists. Being successful in the business of dentistry isn't about how many CE courses you take or your social media following. It's about effectively leading a team of people through a busy day that is fun, rewarding, and profitable, and then repeating it day after day. Are you struggling with getting new patients to say yes to comprehensive treatment? Having trouble getting paid up front? Are you connecting with your team, or do you have a revolving door of staff? Lionhearted Live is a seminar for you. I'm passionate about teaching you to be a better leader in your practice and in life as well. This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited, so register now. Yeah, and 3 hours later, I realized he probably wasn't the guy for me, but he got my attention in terms of, I know what I was going to say. The way that you get punished if you're the owner of a solo or even smaller successful practice is that if I take that practice, let's just say I'm doing 5+ million, which I was, and there's no single dentist can afford that. So we all know what the old protocol was. I would school a young guy, or maybe he was out of school for a couple of years, and hoped that he would take over my practice. Well, a young guy doesn't have $5 million, let alone 6, 7, 8, or 9. So what we used to do is I would lose literally millions by following that old method of selling. And I just couldn't do it. I don't care how wholesome your philosophy is and you don't want to sell to a DSO. I'm not leaving $4 million on the table.
Right.
Are you kidding me? So he got my attention because for the first time, listen, here's what you need to do. Here's my real opinion. And I'm going to, Elijah's going to share the ups and downs, the ins and outs about going down this space that he knows about probably better than I do because I just have my experience. But I think you owe it to yourself, if you're thinking of that, to go through the process a little bit and see what it feels like, because that's what happened to me. You know, I don't mean sign on a dotted line. I mean, you can interview and talk to one person or two people like I did. And so, you know, this guy was telling me crazy stories after crazy stories that made me dubious of his credibility. But I didn't think he could be totally batshit crazy. So it got my attention, and then I started doing diligence to calling other DSOs, and somehow I landed where I landed. And it's not, by the way, I want to make it clear, it hasn't been nowhere near all bad for me. It's just different, and you need a podcast on that. You need to hear the cons. You need to hear what's happening when you do sell. But one thing's certain for me, if you have a successful practice, there's no way you can do the old model. You just can't. Because, you know, unless you made, you know, a whole lot of money in the market and don't care. Because here's the deal. Just like everything else in life, like dentists, like you, DSOs have different personalities. They're not all out to buy you up and chop you up. That's what I thought. It's just not true. My man, tell me what you know now, because you've been in this space a while. And so for clarity's sake, tell them one more time basically what the group that you're involved with does.
Yep.
You know, and to be clear, I want to be clear with you guys one more time. I'm not here pushing you to, not even a little bit. You don't even go down that hole until you're thinking that's what I want. But when you're ready, you have more opportunities than I do now, because what he's going to tell you didn't exist in 2021. Go ahead.
Yes, I'll first start off by saying don't wait until you're ready. Because a lot of people do wait until they're ready to hang up the drill or retire or train somebody in 6 months and be gone. If you do that, you will be taking significantly less for your practice. And so don't wait until you're ready. Talk now, and whoever you talk to is up to you. But I'll go back to the walk-on song. So I'll tell you the end before we go to the details. So
okay.
You got a private room. It's at an event. It's at a dental event, right?
Right.
We did Florida Dental Association 2 months ago. This month we did DICMA, the DICMA Dental Conference. But it's a private room, and you have 10 of our 55 sellers in the front row. And you get a text.
Sellers are the guys that are selling their practice. I don't mean to be dumb.
Buyers, sorry, thank you for that.
Buyers.
Thank you for that. There are 10 buyers in the front that want to buy your practice.
In the front row.
In the front row.
I'm liking this. Good.
Like Shark Tank American Idol style.
Okay.
They're in the front row, and you get this text message because you're outside in the waiting area.
Right.
And you're by yourself.
Oh, it's too bad you can't hear this. This is good stuff. Go ahead.
You are outside in your waiting area. For those who are wrestlers, I call it the bullpen. It may resonate with you, may not, but this is right before the moment. We text you and say, you're up. You come through that room and boom, walk-on song hits. What's your favorite walk-on? So if you were going to sell and it was going to be fun, what would your walk-on song be? Eye of the Tiger? Or what would it be?
Me?
Yeah.
I know the song goes, den, 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 den.
Yep.
Den, den. I don't know what song that is.
Oh, it's a good walk-on song. We're going with that. And so you're in a good energy because you got
yes.
You're in a good energy.
Yes.
Okay. You walk on into the room. You walk all the way up to the stage. Now all the buyers have stood up out of their seat.
Yeah.
And they're clapping. They are clapping for you to get up on that. They're clapping. You have a standing ovation.
You're not going to believe this. Go ahead.
This is before you even get to say you get to the stage. And my business partner, Matt Ornstein, which he's just an amazing human. We'll talk about him later potentially. He asks all of the questions to the seller in front of the buyers. Non-financial questions, by the way, because prior to the event, we actually went over all the financials. We know the collections. We know the EBITDA.
Right.
And the buyers know it as well. So non-financial questions such as, hey, Steve, do you do any specialty in your practice? And say, yeah, actually, I have an institute. And we do a lot of implants and full mouth, etc. Okay, cool. Then the next question will be something along the lines of, how long do you want to stay at your practice after you bring on a partner or you sell? And, you may say, I want to stay 3 to 5 years or however long you let me. Or you may say, I want to be gone in 6 months. And it's very important to be honest.
Right.
Because if you want to go in 6 months and you're just trying to sell and they want you to stay on for 3 years, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So those type of questions are asked. It's an example from the stage. And it's about a 15-minute process. Okay?
15?
15 minutes. 20 at the most.
And then what happens?
Then you get off the stage and you go back into the waiting room, and right where you were,
right.
by yourself or with your spouse or whatnot. And but you leave feeling really good, like, man, there's a lot of people who want what I got, and I can't wait to the next step. So here's what happens. They leave the room. We wait 5 minutes and shoot another text. Seller number 2. Seller 2 comes in the room with a whole different energy, but it's good energy because it's their walk-on song. Everybody stands up. They're clapping. We get to the stage, same process. Ask them the questions. And then after all of the sellers get a chance to pitch or be interviewed from the front of the stage, the next thing that happens is the buyers get up and they come to a specific table and it says seller, there's a sheet for seller 1, 2, 3, 4,
I got
5. Time slots 10 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11, 11:30 to 12. Half-hour meetings, and they all fill out, there's 10 slots on there, they all fill out the time that they're going to meet with them one-on-one. So really what we do that's very different when we're...
It's speed dating.
It's speed dating, and we take the broker wall down. A lot of times the seller will not meet the person who's going to buy them until towards the very end of the process.
That's
and
right.
Oftentimes that's too late, because then you're like, well, man, now I know I'm going to be making X million of dollars, but I don't even know if I can deal with this person I'm selling to. We take the broker wall down early so you get to actually meet and understand each other, and it can be a really good relationship early on, and then we make the process so it's way better. It's easier, it's more fun, and just to be clear, we're on the seller side. We're a sell-side brokerage firm, so that's the big thing that we do different. Now, cool thing is I got to have a lot of really good relationships with all these conference owners. So I'm already friends with them. I've keynoted their events, DJ'd their events, I've emceed, and now I'm like, hey, can we have dental pitch brokerage at your conference?
Yeah.
And the answer is typically yes. But at the end of the day, the conferences, they bring us to the event. We have the event. They feed us all the leads, ultimately. And we have a very good relationship with them. And ultimately, they're happy to do it because they're giving opportunities to their dentist.
So when do these guys are, I'm sure, are chomping at the bit to know, when do they know what somebody's offering?
Good. That's great. So typically 2 weeks after that interview happens, 2 weeks after, to maximum 4 weeks, there's negotiations and all the letter of intents happen. And that's where we jump in and we're helping with that whole process. So this way we're giving, because it's not just important how much money they're paying, believe it or not. That's one element. But what are you agreeing to? What are the exit terms?
Yeah, sure.
So not only are we defending the EBITDA, we're defending the fact that you want the same amount and you want to be gone in 3 years, not 5.
Right.
Right? Or maybe they're open to giving you 70%, but you really want 80%. Well, up front.
Yeah, I know.
It's typically an earn out. on the back end, which is another conversation. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're like me and this company is offering me 80%, this one's offering me 70%, but the terms are way better for this other one because if I want to, I could leave in 2 years. The 80% I got to stay on for 5. I'm going to take 70 with 2 years. There's a ton of different terms and things to make sure that you're looking for, and so a broker does all of that work for you.
Well, you know, again, this I need you guys to know something, and that is that I really didn't know any of the details. I knew that Elijah was getting involved in this type of space, but I didn't know how it worked till just now, like you did. And I don't care what you do as long as I've helped you make a better decision. But I got to say, my candid response to this is the fact that you put him in front of 10 people at one time.
Yep.
I actually wish I had that chance. I'm being serious. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, and I did good. I did well. But I didn't get the pitch to 10 people. I didn't get the pitch to 2.
Yes.
To outbid each other.
And they move fast too, because they know that you're not playing, you're selling. Like the one office that it was our superstar. We just had this last one, and I can only say so much because obviously I'm under NDA. Right. But they were from Austin. They had 8 locations. You know, they had 9 offers, and the offers come in quick. You
mean over that 2-week period? After that 2-week period?
Yes.
When they're waiting 2 weeks, yeah. Wow.
Because, and you're not lowballing. If you lowball, get out of here. Because at the end of the day, you want to offer the highest value, right? The maximum value for that practice. Like, you don't want to play games because you have all these other people are an issue.
Yeah, I really did not conceptualize till tonight what you were actually doing. I don't know how, for anybody in the space of thinking of a transition, getting out or moving on, that this could not be good for those people. The fact that you are leveraging against multiple possible purchasers.
Yes. Another piece is that some people, back to like getting ready, or like, hey, I'm not ready to sell yet. Do not wait till you're ready to sell. Be sell ready. And so a lot of people don't understand that they could actually grow their EBITDA in the year before they sell. Well, how do you grow your EBITDA? And I'm just going to make an example of something very simple. There's all these services out there, right, that you can sign up for. Let's just talk about, for example, marketing. Talk about a marketing service, okay? Or let's do a better service. Let's talk about a dental assisting service, okay? If you spend $1,000 on training your dental assistants, let's just say, in the world of the DSO space, that $1,000, you need to get a 10x return on that $1,000 for it to make sense.
Okay.
So that means if you spend $1,000, okay, you need to get $10,000. Why? Right. Well, because if you get $10,000, the average margin, you know, for a dental practice is 20%. So that means that you're going to make $10,000, but you're really only going to benefit, your net profit's going to be $2,000 because you have all types of expenses and overhead.
Yeah, right.
So when you take that $2,000 that you made, it was hard for you to make that because you had the 10x, right? So what's happening is that it's way easier to cut from the bottom line. Let's just talk about your materials. If I can save you in 1 year, and it's not me who does this, by the way, but I'm making an example. If I could save you a total of, let's just say, $100,000 a year in savings. Well, you didn't really like, you know, spend money to get it. You just cut from the bottom line. So that $100,000, you may get a 5 or 6 times multiple, meaning when you sell your practice,
right,
that $100,000, you're going to get it. Let's call it a multiplier.
So when you say to my guys, now, I'm being straight with you I'm talking to. A lot of my guys know my philosophy. They know about this is a clinical excellence type of podcast, and nobody's going to want to use lesser labs. What kind of things can they do to up their EBITDA?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody could buy supplies for less, and it's the same supplies, then they would do it.
Yep.
Who wouldn't do that?
I'll give you an example. So supplies is one. I know one of the most profitable.
Join me on October 18th and 19th for 2+ days of inspiration and real business training.
This is the course that changes everything. Attendance is limited. Register now.
Dental offices and groups. I won't mention their name, but I will say that they're from the Chicago area. Okay. What did they do to grow their EBITDA? Why is their EBITDA or net profit so high? Well, in this time, it's very difficult to find people. There's a people issue happening. Hard to find hygienists. Hard to find reliable front office and assistants. It's hard to find dentists. There's a shortage period. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what they did is they took out the entire front office and they do virtual check-in.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
So they're saving, like literally, over $100,000. Well, I'll say $100,000 to $200,000, right? In expenses, they cut that out because now they have a virtual check-in. It's all virtual check-in, virtual check-out, and people are used to it. But that's an example of how do you grow your EBITDA. I mean, there's a ton of examples. And consultants, that's what there's a whole bunch of experts that specialize in this. I am not a consultant. I hung up that a while ago. But I know all of them that do. But at the end of the day, there's easy ways to grow your EBITDA. And you can't look at it as I'm saving $2,000 or $2,000.
I know. It's a multiple you get of it.
It's that multiplies. So if you save $200,000 times 5, you've actually grew the value of your practice by $1 million. Which is... I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, you know what Steve Rasner would tell my podcast listeners about that? I know a lot of you, I'm just being straight with you, wouldn't want to even do anything about what virtual front desk or anything like that. Here's what I do think is important. It's what I said earlier in the podcast. It's don't wait till you winded it down and you are going down by 15-20% for 3 or 4 years, and then that's when you're going to go to sell your practice, because then you're just killing yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot. I did very well, and one of the reasons I did very well, Elijah, is what I said. I didn't have any intention of selling, and I made my mind up pretty quickly when I was at the top of my game.
Right. I think it's also important that everybody understands. You read these things in magazines. Don't listen to everything you read about the amount of money people are getting for their practices or the multiple.
Yeah.
It's important to understand that the lower your EBITDA, the lower your multiple. And I keep saying multiples, that's everybody knows. Let me make it very clear.
Okay.
A multiple is a multiplier. And I'm going to say EBITDA. Let's call EBITDA your net profit.
Okay.
So your net profit is your EBITDA times that by a multiplier of 3, 4, 5. Could go up as high as 10, potentially more if it's huge. Understand this. The net profit, the higher your net profit, the higher the multiplier. And that's very important to know. When you hear people talk about they got a 10 times multiple, right? That does not apply to a solo practice, typically, because most solo practices have a very low EBITDA, very low number. Now, if you have a higher EBITDA and you're a solo practice, you can expect something higher. So let's just make a real life example. If you have $1 million practice, 1 million,
right?
It's safe to say that your margins are 20%.
Okay.
That would be $200,000.
Right.
Okay? Could be higher, could be lower, but average is $200,000. Okay? That would be your net profit. Now let's go ahead and say for that, you can expect somewhere between, don't hold me to these numbers, and just throwing numbers out that are reasonable.
Yeah, I get it.
A 3 multiple or multiplier to a 5 multiplier.
Right.
Okay, so what does that mean that you'll get? That means that you would get $600,000 to $1 million.
Yeah.
If you have a smaller practice. Now I'm going to go up and let's just say you're have a very successful, thriving practices. And say you have 3 of them.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden your multiple, your EBITDA, your net profit, let's just say it's $2 million EBITDA. Okay, not 200,000, but 2 million. So you took that net profit and went way up. 2 million in EBITDA. Realistically, your number is going to start at like a 5 times multiplier. Okay, that's a $10 million sale. But it can go up to reasonably 7, maybe 8 if you're really, really lucky. Mm-hmm. But let's just say 7 to be on the safe side. So say 5 to 7. Notice I didn't say 10.
Yeah.
In a lot of articles out there that are being written, people are talking about a 10 times multiple. That's not really happening. That's not happening right now. If it is happening, then maybe they had a 10 million EBITDA. And you got to be huge to get, a 10 million EBITDA. But it's very important to understand and be realistic that the higher your EBITDA, the higher your net profit, the higher the multiple is going to be. Which is why it's so important to not think about selling when you're ready to sell. You think about it right now. And you may look at your books and be like, man, I actually can leave right now and retire. I could get my, say, $4 million or $3 million, and then I can get paid as a dentist on top of that.
Let me ask you this, because they're going to want to know this, and I want to start wrapping too. Let me ask you this. You mentioned before the different terms, and I know this interests a lot of people that I know out there, whether they listen to me or not. So is it still very variable? Like, is there still packages out there where somebody can get out in 3 years or 2 years if they wanted to? I know that my understanding is that DSOs want you for 5 years.
No, it's definitely you can get 2 years, 3 years. I mean, there are situations where you could get out in 1, or somebody just buy you outright. Understand that we don't just work with DSOs. We work with DSOs. We work with private equity groups starting DSOs.
Okay.
Family offices and private practice dentists. And so we give you all of the different options, but 3 to 5 is a standard. Some want 5, but 3 to 5 years is a standard. So if you want to retire in 5 years, like, it's time to start talking, right? You don't wait until 5 years, because ultimately if you can get your big payday a year from now, let's just say, then you can continue to get paid and not have to worry about any of the day-to-day. You don't have to worry about hiring, firing, bills. You just get a check.
Yeah, and isn't it also true, because I found this out a little bit the hard way, not at my deal, but before my deal, is that I think if you're in that space and you really want to sell, and you're thinking you want to sell, they want an office that is easier to plug into and go than an office. In other words, an office that's replicable. They don't, like, I was thinking, I don't know if this is laughable or not. I'm thinking, because I'm Steve Rasner and I do all this really exotic dentistry, that you're going to really want me. And that's not really true. They want you to be profitable. And think about it for a minute. They don't want it to be hard to replicate what you did.
Yep.
And I kind of learned that the hard way. I mean, I did.
Yeah,
absolutely. So here's my, and I'm going to ask you one more question, Elijah. I'm going to say this to people that have watched me a long time. I'm not here on this podcast to do anything but let you know there are other avenues if this is what you're thinking of. If I was the one of many of you that I know very well, and you like the way you're practicing, then keep doing it. Don't change anything and up to up your EBITDA. Listen to me carefully. That you're going to go and then sell 6 months from now or a year, because that's not going to make you feel good inside. Listen, even if you kept your EBITDA right where it is, I mean this, you got better opportunities than you ever had. If I sold my practice in 2022 and the DSO never existed. That model didn't exist. I'm telling you, it would be a very different outlook financially for me than it is presently. And to some of us, it doesn't make a difference. I get it. There's a lot of dentists out there that are much more savvy than me, that invest in real estate in your 30s and 40s and 50s, and you got gobs of dollars, and maybe you did great in the market. Maybe you bought Apple in 2002. I didn't. Okay? So it was important to me. I worked my butt off. I love dentistry, and I worked my butt off in it because I loved it, but I still worked hard for 40 plus years. And there's no way I was just going to sell it to some private guy because I didn't want equity or DSO to own my business. And to be honest with you, the DSO I sold to, they've kept their word. They didn't do anything here. I can't even tell I sold, to be quite honest with you, and I'm fortunate. But now, you even have greater opportunities. I did not shop myself, that's for sure, to 8 or 9 or 10 people like he's telling you the opportunity you have today.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I'm going to kind of piece together what you just said. When you're like, don't bust your butt growing your EBITDA for 6 months, I'm gonna give a very practical reason why not to do that. Okay? If stuff's easy to change, do it. But don't bust your butt for 6 months or a year thinking you're gonna get more. Here's what happens. There's something that's called an earnout. Okay? Majority of the buyers are going to put you in an earnout. That means you get 70% of your cash, 80%, some do as low as 50%. Okay? Rarely are you going to get 90 unless you're just
Right.
out. But let's just say you get 70%. Okay? Get that cash up front. The remaining 30%, they're going to want you to keep your EBITDA just where it's at. So if you bust your butt for a year thinking, this is my last year of hard work, and then all of a sudden your EBITDA drops, that means that you will not be paid that full 30%. You get a portion of it, but you're not going to get that full 20 or 30%. So you may as well not have took that entire year to try to bust your butt, because you're setting yourself up for failure ultimately for the next 3 to 5 years, because you're going to be looked at saying you are supposed to be hitting these numbers.
Right.
And if you don't hit these numbers, you're going to affect the people who bought you, but you're also going to affect yourself, because you're not going to get your 20 to 30%. So you, just like you said, you may be better off right where you're at, selling right where you're at with your current comfortable workload, instead of ramping it way up there to then get a higher multiple, a higher EBITDA, to then be disappointed in the years to come.
Yeah, I mean, look, these guys aren't stupid. But he's right. So you can't cash your check and then start watching the stock market 3 hours of your 6-hour day and think that everything's going to be the way you think it's going to be, because they are holding some of your money, as I would do, as you would do if you sold to somebody and paid them a big fee. So there's no free lunch anywhere. It's got to make sense. Yes, the opportunity to make more money in a the opportunity to make more money in affiliating today or turning over your practice is greater than ever, but there's no free lunch. Nobody's going to give you something and let you walk away without. They'll get, if you quit on them, they'll get what they can on the back end. That's just and that's the way it should be. It's not right.
Yeah.
So, how do you want to wrap this up? What do you want to say to my audience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the biggest take home is don't wait until you're ready to sell, and be sell ready, and engage with conversations with people like myself or any brokerage firm. We're national, right? We work with everybody, but have the conversations are free, and you don't have to sign on the dotted line for anybody.
Right.
But
sure.
Get educated, and also when you're ready, like, go all in if you're ready, right? Get all the stuff done, do the financials, get everything over. But at the end of the day, don't wait until you're ready to retire. Wait until you think you got 3 to 5 years left, and at that point, that's when you give us a call or somebody else a call. But like I said, conversations are free. So just talk to the expert.
Yeah, man. I like that talk. Listen, I'm going to leave you guys with this. I mean, and then say goodbye. You know, conversations are free. And you should do it. Just like we talked very early in this podcast about, think about getting coaches in your life. I always said that in my live presentations. I said, one of the keys to success in dentistry and in life is surround yourself with 3 really important people. I said this before I ever met you. And that is an accountant that's specific to dentistry, a financial investor that has dental connections as well, because they know the space. They know what you go through. There are financial investors that cater to dentists. There are accountants. Absolutely, you need an accountant that has a wealth of dentists in his what's my word I'm thinking of?
In his pocket, in his back pocket.
A wealth of dentists in his back pocket. And then thirdly, and I did this a long time ago. So I started out with a life coach, and I didn't do it my entire career. I did it 2 different times. I didn't have them for my whole 40-year career, but I had them. You need some place where you can talk to somebody outside your significant other, outside of your best friends, somebody that is qualified to help you make better decisions. It's an important part of a highly motivated dentist who performs at a high level, which I know a lot of you do. So we're going to leave with that, Elijah. You can anything you want to say more to the audience? We can.
No, I mean you can get in touch with me on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or you can shoot me an email, Elijah@dentalpitchbrokerage.com. Go to the website, Elijah or dentalpitchbrokerage.com, and reach out. And I'm happy to help. And I'm also happy to help get you the right person to sell your business if it's not me, right? It's not.
I like that.
Give you free advice, because at the end of the day, I have been there and I've had these conversations, right? In just 6 months, we have over 120 sellers in just 6 months.
Really?
And so the knowledge after talking to this person, to that, all these buyers, all these sellers, and I'm happy to help anybody, and I don't have to be working with you, just helping you. Because what happens is I go and I help you, it couldn't cost you anything, and I help you to make the right decision, guide you to the right person. You're probably going to tell a friend when they're ready to sell their practice. So,
well, you wouldn't be on my show if I didn't think you could help people.
That's right.
My people. That's right. So, it's an unusual show for me because probably sometime in my podcast went back to 2018, you probably heard me badmouth DSOs and corporate dentistry. And I've said it earlier tonight. There's parts of that I do stand by. I think you got to know everything that you can when you make these type of decisions. But I think it's also important you have as much information as you can. And I would encourage you to reach out to Elijah and see what he has to say. Thank you, brother. I appreciate everything, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
I love you.
Love you too, bro.